I did also receive a thumb drive from Mr. Reiner. I did not listen to that to this point, in as much as I was unclear whether, Mr. Reiner, you were a party to two of the calls, and I also didn't know where any recordations may have been made, and what, if any, impact that may have. But as we go along, if you want to explain those calls, and to the extent I think it appropriate, I could to listen to those calls as well. Mr. Reinert, I'll let you go first. And the way this will work mechanically, I'll give you a chance to tell your side of the story. After you've done so, I'll give Mr. Garrett an opportunity to cross-examine you. After that, if you have other witnesses to call, and I understand you may call Mr. Heinrich, you may call him after he's testified. Mr. Garrett will again be given an opportunity to question him. If you don't have any further evidence at that point, Mr. Garrett will be given an opportunity to present. And what I would like to do, if the parties don't have any objection to this, is to allow Mr. Garrett to present not only any defense he may think is appropriate, but also speak to any counterclaim issues he may have. I think it will be more seamless if each of you are sort of telling the whole of your tales directly rather than in parts. After that, you can cross-examine Mr. Garrett, Mr. Reinhardt, and certainly if he calls any of the other gentlemen here present, you'll be given an opportunity to cross-examine them as well. At the conclusion of the case, I give each of you an opportunity to explain what you think the evidence has shown and what you think the court should do in terms of a ruling. And I'll begin now with you, Mr. Reinert, if you'd like to tell me your side of the story, sir.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you for your time. Your Honor, I met Mr. Garrett some 3 odd years ago. In that time, I heard of this tour and was explained this tour to me a couple times, and thought about it, but didn't commit at that time. I spoke with one other guy that had went on his trip earlier, and got his feedback of what he liked and what he didn't like and how things went. And I liked his report, thought it was good. It went with what Mr. Garrett told me would happen. So I decided late January of this year, 2025, that I would commit to the trip. And I talked to Mr. Lee. We had a set down exclusive, and he laid out the basics of the trip. And the basics of the trip were what the trip included was dinner. He started out with breakfast, and I told him I don't eat breakfast very seldom. And so he said dinner would be okay. We could switch it for dinner so long as I didn't eat steak every night. And I said that wouldn't be a problem. And he said it also included 1 tank of gas and all the hotels in really nice places, was his words, really nice places. So I said, okay, I committed at that point. And
what have I gotten into?
He said, well, I'll have to take a little time because I have to get a bike ready for you. Let me stop here just for a minute, Your Honor, and ask you a personal question of your understanding about motorcycles. Have you rode a motorcycle? Do you have any experience on the road with motorcycles?
A little bit, yes, sir.
Okay, so I'll have to go into a little bit more detail for understanding here. So his tour is a off-road tour or a street tour, either one is what he told me. Told me he had taken guys on street tours and taken guys off-road, so both of them are okay. And I said, okay. I committed to him using his bike. He told me it'd be another $1,400 to rent his bike for the trip. And I said, okay. No money was down at this point. And I went off and I thought about it. and I called him directly and I said, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to cancel. I said, my mind says I can do it, but my body, I cannot ride dirt roads for 14 days straight and be okay. By the way, Your Honor, I'm disabled. I have multiple medical issues. And I went over all these medical issues with him. The main one of my concern was I have heat issues. I've had 3 heat exhaustions and 1 heat stroke, and doctors basically can't tell me why I'm alive right now. So I have to be very, very, very careful with hot issues. So knowing that we were going to a desert, I did a lot of research about the temperatures, what the temperatures were, talked extensively with Mr. Garrett about temperatures, relayed all my health issues with him, my concerns. Matter of fact, I told him at one point, if I get too hot along the trip, I may have to bow out and let the trip go on and just have to concede to my health. So he said, okay. And, but again, I did go back and cancel on the trip because of the off-road riding. Well, Mr. Garrett came back and said, well, hey, there is a way we can still work this. He goes, I was hauling a bike anyway. So instead of hauling my bike, I can haul your bike down there. And I thought about it and I said, well, okay, I would much rather ride my bike. I have a street bike. It's street only. It's not made for off-road of any type whatsoever. Mr. Lee knows the difference, and Mr. Garrett knows the difference between a street and an off-road bike. So, so I had to, as soon as we got through these light details here, he asked me to commit all the way and to pay him. So we met for lunch, and I wrote him a check for $3,800 for the trip. And like I said, that was covering 1 tank of gas, the dinners, and all really nice hotels along the way. Told me that we would be staying on the beach and it'd just be really good. So I did that. And I committed to that. And then I can't remember, it's been some time either on that conversation or he called me back and said, well, the only catch is that I've got to be leaving in a week because I have a tour previous to you. So he was running a tour in February and this tour was in, of course, March. So I said, okay. It caused me to have to run through my bike check, do all my maintenance checks, change the oil. I went back and looked at my vehicle log and my battery was 5 years old. Wasn't anything wrong with it. I wasn't having any trouble, but I decided to go ahead and change the battery just so I wouldn't have any problems. I wouldn't have to worry about anything. So I did all that. I met him and I sent my bike off 1 month early, which is way out of my comfort zone. I've never parted with my bike. Most guys don't part with their bikes, especially for a month. When he left, in my mind, I had an understanding that it was going to be kept in a toy hauler, meaning an enclosed trailer. Well, that wasn't the case. And evidently, I didn't ask enough questions about this to find out. So he put all this together to sell me this trip and to go on the trip. And again, I agreed. I was okay with that. And I did the maintenance. I shipped my bike off. And a week after it was gone, I thought, man, I wonder if my bike's okay, but I had no way of knowing. So 1 week before the trip, I asked Lee if he would, I'm sorry, 1 week before the trip, Mr. Garrett asked if I would haul some parts down to him. Evidently, he broke some parts on his previous trip or crashed or something, and he needed some parts and some extra stuff brought. So I agreed, no problem. So I met a friend of his. He dropped off 2 large boxes, a helmet, and another bag of equipment. So I hauled all this down there. I had planned on pulling over and being able to sleep in the back of my SUV, but with all his stuff in the back, I wasn't able to do that. So I just pulled over on the roadside and took a little a brief nap at time or two because I drove pretty much straight from here to El Centro, California, which is where we were meeting at the hotel. So I arrived on March 9th in El Centro, California at the motel destination. Mr. Garrett arrived later that day. On the 10th, I was ready to go at sunup and didn't see Mr. Garrett until 9-ish when he told me that the other two riders, these two guys introducing them to you now, are Terry and Glenn. They are both Canadians. They came down to ride this same trip. Let me back up a little bit. When I paid for the trip, I had my check out and I asked Mr. Garrett who do I write the check to, because Mr. Garrett introduced himself as Gravel Travel Tours and told me that he had a partner that he worked with and they worked together and they did the same thing. So I said, okay, who do you want me to make the check out to? He insisted on me making the check out to him personally. And Your Honor, I've been in business accepting a personal check. I know it's not that big a deal. You run it through your company. I assume that's what was going to happen. In hindsight, after all this, Your Honor, I have looked high and low through Kansas businesses up and down, and there is no business related to Mr. Garrett in Kansas whatsoever, be it gravel travels or any other kind of whatsoever. So he falsely represented himself as having a business, which he does not have. And then he tagged me in with his supposed partner, which is Joseph here, is his supposed partner. And Joseph, as far as what I can tell, Joseph does have an actual business, but he's related out of Denver, Colorado. Okay, so back to where we're on the trip and I paid my money and it's going to Joseph or to him, and I have no idea because I paid Lee. I was doing business with Lee, with Mr. Lee Garrett. I did business with him, never talked to Joe, didn't even know anything about Joseph at all, except for when we exchanged the money. When he had my money in his hand, he said, okay, you know, I've got to get ready to go out of town. Joseph will be contacting you. We do a group chat. So everybody's on the chat. Everybody's knowing the same thing. Said, okay. Said, I'm not very good at this, but you may have to walk me through it. And so later that day, the next day, whenever it was, Joseph contacted me and sent me the link, I believe it's called. And I got on WhatsApp, which is the Baja 2025 messages that you have in front of you. There is the trip app. That's what we worked off of. So on the 10th, like I said, I got up, I was ready to go. Terry and Glenn, they were running late. The best I can remember, they got there around 11:30 and we were gone, actually left the trip about 12:30 or 1 o'clock to head to Mexico. Okay, so it took a little while for Terry and Glenn to get their bikes out of their trailer and get ready to roll, and didn't take them very long, but they were later than what they thought they were going to be, and that's okay. That really didn't affect the trip for me. It did affect the trip for them. They had to skip one of the places they wanted to see on the way there, but that was okay with them because they knew they were late. So we left, we crossed straight south into Mexicali, into the Baja California area. We finalized our paperwork to cross. Then Mr. Garrett tried to take us across the border the wrong way, and the guards had to turn us around and stop us and send us back the right way. Not a big deal, but kind of thought at this point in hindsight that my guide should have known how to take us through the border without complication. But that was all of our pre-trip situation as we were leaving. So day one, our trip, as you see your map there in front of you, Your Honor, San Felipe was our first destination. And we rode to San Felipe.
Oh my God. Does he have a scrapbook?
Trouble-free, no problems. we get to San Felipe, and early on, Glenn realized that his gear in his bike was not the right gear, so he was not able
That's the vibe I'm
to
getting,
go as fast as
but I
the
haven't
rest
seen
of
it.
us.
I don't
So
know.
he was not able to keep up with the group like he should have been able to. But so Terry and I were usually out front because we have the same ride ability and we could ride the same speed and everything. And that left Glenn and Mr. Garrett coming behind. Well, as you can see in those messages before the trip, right before the trip, it was being discussed by Terry and Glenn all the way through. They were asking for a schedule of events and places we were going to stay. One of the things that Mr. Garrett insisted on having my money up in full, the full amount up front, which didn't bother me, but he said he needed to make all the reservations. And okay, I understand you got reservations to make. That's okay. Well, we get to San Felipe, Your Honor, and not only was there no reservations, but we pulled up to a abandoned motel. This place had not been open in quite some time, and this was supposedly where we had reservations. Okay. And I actually made it to San Felipe before Terry, and Mr. Garrett had his girlfriend meet me at the town circle going into the circle of the town. And so I met her there. Her name is Anga. And I met Anga there. And I proceeded to follow Anga to this abandoned motel. We stood there for 15, 20 minutes while she was just so amazed that there was nobody there to let us in and give us rooms or anything. And so she is trying to contact Mr. Garrett and back and forth. And then finally everybody gets there together because they were only 15, 20 minutes behind me. So they caught up, and then Mr. Garrett got there, and oh, well, there's a hotel right around the corner. Okay, so we go around the corner, and Your Honor, I have never stayed in a worse place in my life. Um, there's only one time, and I don't travel a lot, but I travel, and there's only one other time in my life out of desperation I stayed in a worse place than this place. My room, it's in itself, well, actually the second room, the first room was totally unacceptable to me. So I asked for another room, and he went, come back with another key. And one of the stipulations, matter of fact, the only stipulation that I put on the trip before we left was Mr. Garrett had mentioned that, oh, well, it's not that big a deal, but if you're good with it, we can just bunk together and it'll be easier and this and that. And I told him yes to start with.
Oh no.
And then again, I rethought the situation and I called him back and said, look, I cannot stay with you for your benefit. I said, I am up and down all times of the night because of my health. I don't sleep seldom very well. So I need a king or a queen size bed in every room. Every time I stay, I've got to have that size of a room
I think
because
they'll
of my
need
health.
queen beds.
He
If you
said,
know what I'm saying.
okay, that's no problem. That's doable in the deal. I said, okay, we're good. So we get to this room, and this room is a full size bed, a sorry full size bed at that. The bathroom literally has the toilet propped up with a piece of styrofoam behind it, so the toilet will seal. The shower was dirty before I even got in there. Went ahead and took my shower in there because I didn't have a choice. Went ahead and went to sleep that night. Didn't really sleep, dozed a few times, woke up with bugs flying around my head and a bee flying over by the window in the room. I mean, we are talking a pitiful, pitiful room. Okay. So Terry and Glenn are there, and we talked that evening, and they're very upset about their room. And Mr. Garrett and I are supposed to be friends. Besides this trip, it was supposed to be friends besides business. So I am trying to cover him for what he is telling them is going on. And I'm trying to tell him, hey, this is just a one-time deal. It'll get better. So um, we had our time there, and Mr. Garrett is staying over on the beach. Very nice place. Got his I believe it was a fifth wheel trailer, his camper trailer there parked right next to a nice cabana. Got him very nice place to stay. He puts us in a
No, I
very
haven't.
scumbag motel over there for our
Scumbag
first night.
Motel. This is
So
Alyssa's
we
fault.
get up the next morning, day 2, and he calls us, and we go over to his place to have breakfast. Another late start. Matter of fact, every day almost was a late start, and I'll circle back to the 2 that weren't late starts, but every day was a late start. And I am an early riser. I'm up 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm up waiting 2 or 3 or 4 hours for these guys to get around and get ready, which all actually come down to everybody was ready except for Anga, because Anga came and she brought her dogs and her dog crate and her dog food and dog accessories, and those were always the very last things to be loaded up. We were always waiting on her to get her final things and get out of there. So we go over there to the cabana, we eat, and we're destined for our
It's the most
next
surprising thing so
location, which
far.
I never really knew what our locations were that we were going to. It was not communicated to me at all. It didn't bother me. I was along for the ride. I was along for vacation. I felt pretty still comfortable at this point, even though I didn't sleep very well. We take off on day 2, and we get, I don't know, 4 hours into the trip, and we run into rain, and didn't get too awful wet. We hit a roadside cafe motel situation that just happened to come up, and we did a little powwow between all of us, and everybody said, okay, we want to stay here. We don't want to ride on. And so Mr. Garrett went inside, and they luckily had 3 rooms. I mean, this place was full because everybody was pulling over and stopping there. So there was other riders there, as well as a couple travelers that had cars. And we were able to get 3 rooms. On the pictures that I sent you, Your Honor, the first picture that you'll see is the group sitting in the cabana beside where Mr. Lee's trailer was staying. And on the back, you can see all the lights out there across the beach and everything back there behind them. Is a really nice location there. And so we come to this place that we have to stop for the rain, and I would I did not feel at this point like I was being taken advantage of, so I did not take pictures of the rooms that I stayed in for these first 2 stays. But this second stay in the rain day, I was given a double single bed room, single bed, no sleep, no rest, dozed a couple times. Was able to get a nice double bed room for Terry and Glenn. And I didn't think much about it, but luckily I had walked out into the middle area, and I glanced in Mr. Garrett's room, and he had him a nice big queen bed off in there with Miss Anga. They slept real comfortable. They didn't have any problems, but I sure did. Kind of think that I should have been the one taken care of on this trip instead of him taking care of his girlfriend instead of me. But that was Mr. Garrett's choice on day 2. So 2 days, very little sleep, not happy with it, but that's how it went. So day 3, we get up, same thing, Your Honor. We can't seem to get on the road till 9:30, 10 o'clock. I didn't get down the times and the days on each and every one of them, but there was not any days that we got up and left at sunup by any means at all. So day three, and my pronunciation of these places we stayed are going to be really botched. But day three, we stayed in San Ignacio, I believe it is called. And if you'll look at picture number two, picture number two is the motel that I was put in separately. I made a comment about not being able to sleep and being comfortable, so I was put in a nicer motel than Terry and Glenn were allowed to stay in. They were allowed to stay in I don't know what it was called, it may be a bed and breakfast or a roadside park stay or something. But he took me over here to this hotel and got me a double full-size bedroom. So still full-size beds, no king or queen. Hotel was nice. Bathroom was dirty, but you know, decent stay. Still didn't sleep great, but did sleep better than the past 2 nights. So that was day three. I went over. I was the farthest away from the highway leaving. So when we were leaving, I went to where they stayed and met them when we left. And I took a peek in their rooms, and Terry and Glenn were very upset with their accommodations once again, which I would have been livid had he put me in those rooms. Very bad rooms. So 3 out of 3 days, 3 out of 3 times, bad stays, not doing what he said he would do, not giving me the rooms he said he would. So day 4 and 5, stayed at the same place in Loretto. Decent ride there. First day at Loretto, and let me have you go on over if you will follow the pictures. The third picture is the picture of the Loretto place. This was a bed and breakfast. I was never told that we were going to stay in bed and breakfast. Not comfortable with staying in strangers in strange places, let alone bringing a girlfriend and trying to have her stay amongst all the guys. Very, very uncomfortable with that, getting very emotionally stressed at this point. I had quit trying to cover all the lies and the deceptions because Terry and Glenn were very upset, and I was getting just as upset with the accommodations. And Mr. Garrett was coming to me and asking me what was wrong with Glenn and Terry. And I was just straight up with him and said the accommodations aren't what we paid for. And so we made it to this bed and breakfast. And again, I get a room with 2 full-size beds. Not only that, Your Honor, can I ask you what you know about fighting cocks?
I don't know much about them at all. I think the South Carolina mascot is a gamecock, but that's about all I know.
Okay, well, you knew a little bit more than I do, but I got really educated staying at this place because outside of my window, the
What?
neighbor had fighting cocks. Okay, so what I ended up learning, because I was up all night, I'm a country boy, so a rooster's crow is my alarm to wake up. These god dog things, they crowed all night long. There was no break. And what the whole ploy to this whole deal is this guy had, I'm going to say 8 to 9 fighting cocks out in his backyard, very small backyard. And what they do is they put them in individual pens so they can see each other. So they get irritated with each other. So when they want to fight them, they're already irritated and they take them out and they're ready to go because they've been sitting there quarreling with each other for their whole lives, basically. Now, these birds can be worth anywhere between $500 and $32,000. So I made a comment the first night and told him, hey, this is nuts. I'm not sleeping. And, I even made the comment that I'm about ready to go up to the hardware store and get me a little lasso and lasso one of those dudes and we can have it for dinner, because I need to get some sleep. Well, that was, that couldn't be changed at that point. So I was stuck for 2 nights listening to these fighting cocks go all night long. And during this time, I believe it was the first day there. We split, and well, we all went together. All of us rode. Not Anga. She stayed back at the room, and the 4 of us took off on a ride, which went to a oh, what are those things called? An old church area down there. Lee will be able to tell you what those are. But my ride was to this place, and then Mr. Garrett, Terry, and Glenn were leaving there, and they were going on the dirt, and I was turning around, coming back the same path on the street, coming back to the room, which I did not want to come back to the room and stay with his girlfriend in the room by myself. I just felt very, very uncomfortable with that. So I came back, I checked in, I got some stuff, and I immediately left. And I went downtown and just was searching out the downtown area and looking around. And they have these things, I believe they call them zip packs, that are little gasoline containers that they strap to the side of their bike. So when they go out in the desert and they run out of gas, they've got gas to get back. Well, I was going through the downtown, and there was this side road little flea market thing that had a brand new one of these things sitting out there. So, I'm a flea market type guy. So I go over there and look at it, and it's a good deal. And so I buy this, and I get back to my bike, and my bike won't start. It's like the battery's dead, and I'm stuck. By myself, don't speak the language, pretty stuck. But luckily, there was a guy across the street that had a hood up on his Jeep, and I could tell he was kind of working on it. And so I went over there and was able to communicate good enough with him. And he had one of those little bitty starter pack things, and he come over and he was able to start my bike up, and I was able to make it back to the room. And so when Mr. Garrett and Terry and Glenn got back, I told them what the situation was, and they're like, "Oh, well, it could be this, it could be your stator, could be your voltage regulator, it could be your battery." And I said, "Well, it's likely not my battery because it's brand new." "Well, you could have got a bad battery." "Well, okay, I understand that." Well, right before the trip, Mr. Garrett came up and started talking about bringing a chase truck. Before the trip, I was supposed to have Mr. Joseph as a guide and Mr. Lee as a guide. When we got to the trip, Mr. Joseph had bowed out for whatever reason, and Mr. Lee brought his girlfriend along to help as a guide, is what he said anyway. So he ends up bringing this Ford truck along, as he called a chase truck, which he hauled Angus' bike in the back of it, I guess. And so we had a chase truck so we could throw water in, we could throw all of our bags in, we didn't have to haul everything at one time. Worked out pretty good. So these 3 guys are experts on bikes compared to me. I've had bike forever, rode hundreds of thousands of miles, but these guys are racers and riders and know the ins and outs of a bike that I just know the basics of. So these 3 guys all looked at it, they put their heads together, and they said, "Okay, it's likely not your battery, it's your stator or your voltage regulator." And Mr. Garrett had a small tool bag that actually had a battery charger in it. So we made a plan that the next day we would charge the battery up, and we would take off, and by the time we got to the next place, we would know whether it was the battery or what it was. Okay, so I'm listening to all these 3 guys, and actually Terry and Glenn came up with the best plan for my bike, which was to get another full battery, a car battery, because there's no parts to be found down there. It wasn't like I could go to a motorcycle shop and get my bike fixed while I was down there. It was pretty much impossible to do this. So they come up with a plan, and Mr. Garrett said, "Oh yeah, that will work. I went all the way across the US doing this. This will take you through so long as your battery's charged, every night. You can make a ride the full day with your bike battery and a car battery. No worries, no problems." So I had 3 guys agreeing. I felt confident. I went with that idea. That's what we did. So while we were in Loretto, I charged the bike up to go to, we were heading to San Carlos. Terry wanted to go see San Carlos. And so that was our next destination. I made it.
So is
I
that
made it.
day 6? So you
Excuse me?
left Loretto to San Carlos on day 6. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we left Loretto and yeah, we stayed in San Carlos on day 6. Yes, sir.
Okay.
So we stopped for gas once in between there, and my bike died again. So the battery was totally dead at that point. Mr. Garrett had a jump there, and so we jumped it. And he said, "Oh, it's not very far on to San Carlos. You should be able to get there, no problem." And so we left. I actually got within 100 yards of where we stayed, and my bike totally died. I mean, totally died. No electric on it whatsoever. So I had to push it 100 yards to get to where we were staying. And so we all get in there. They took a second look at it. Terry actually got out his volt checker. He took apart my my side panel, checked my fuses, checked all the basic stuff for me. And we decided that it was either for sure the stator
Nonstop.
or the voltage regulator, which again, we could get neither one of them. So we went with the idea of getting a car battery, strapping it on my luggage rack, running jumpers up to the bike battery, and we're good to go, which it actually worked. It worked very, very well. So that was we were in San Carlos, and they had nothing there. But back at the highway intersection, there was a auto zone. So we went to the auto zone, and I cut the rest of the group loose because I wasn't going to eat lunch. Told them to go eat lunch. I'll have all this ready, and I'll be ready to go by the time you get back. So I did all that. I actually had everything ready to go before they were done with lunch because they had to help. They were held up at lunch for a little bit. So I had everything ready. We were ready to roll. Everything was good. I met them at the gas station, and we were on our way to La Paz for our next stay, which was day 7. Let's see. Let me make sure I got everything on day 6 here. Okay, yes, in San Carlos, once again, in San Carlos. And here, Your Honor, I do believe, let me make sure. Yes, pictures. I don't know what picture I'm on. The next pictures, you'll see a plate of food. Very good plate of food, by the way. The food was always very good. No complaints about the food whatsoever. The next picture is my room. Once again, 2 single-size beds. This was in San Carlos. So we are talking now 6 nights of little to no sleep. I'm frazzled at best, to put it mildly. Very frazzled, very, very on the edge, very needing sleep pretty badly. Hoping for a good night's stay before long. Again, didn't happen in San Carlos, so we're on to La Paz. The next picture after the beds in La Paz is the picture of the charger that I was able to borrow, and it's showing that putting this charger on both batteries is able to charge both batteries up to full overnight, which gave me the confidence that I could make it through a full day and have charge without having any problems and causing any delays in the group. So that was good. We went to La Paz, And on day 7, I did not take a picture there. I should have. Another full-size bed, another lack of sleep. Anga had chimed in at different times with we'll just call it her information at this point. And when she was talking about staying at La Paz, her words was, we chose this place on the south side of town because we're leaving out south and it's just easier to get out of town. Now, La Paz is the capital of Baja. So big town, many very, very nice places to stay. I mean, you could have stayed in the Ritz at that place if you wanted to. Okay. But we are chosen to stay on the south side of town, the dirty side of town, the dirt road side of town. Another pitiful stay. Once we got into the little place, it was nice inside, but again, beds weren't acceptable. So we are batting 100% on not providing what was expected on the trip. So we get up and we get out of La Paz on day 8, heading towards Los Barreles, which is where we are supposed to stay on the beach, which is one of the places, I should say, that we were supposed to stay on the beach. The next picture, Your Honor, is the picture of my room in Los Barreles. That is 2 full-size beds with a single-size bed, all crammed into one room there. And that was my room for the next 2 nights. Now, I suppose you could stretch it. The next picture there is the picture of the hotel we stayed in. And you can look straight out there. And yes, you can walk straight out of those and walk straight down to the beach. However, this is nothing in the ballpark of what I was expecting, nor was it what Terry and Glenn were expecting. Matter of fact, well, the place to the north of us was privately owned, but the place 2 down to the north and the place to the south was exactly what all 3 of us were expecting, which was a nice motel laid open out on the beach. You walk straight out of your room, straight onto the beach. Not what we got. We got what you see there in the picture. Dissatisfied again. So at Los Barreles, guess I should back up to the first of it. When we were talking, he asked me what I wanted to do on the trip. I told him 3 things that I wanted on the trip was to go scuba diving, to go deep sea fishing, and to ride the entire loop clear down to the bottom and to ride the whole highway up. Okay. So we get to Los Barreles, which is where we are going to go leave from there the next day and go scuba diving. Glenn wanted to go scuba diving. Terry didn't. Terry wanted to go fishing. So I told him we would go fishing. And so when Glenn and I went scuba diving, Mr. Garrett and Terry went dirt road. They took off on a dirt road trail. So the whole trip, the whole point of going to the scuba diving, this was one of, I'm going to say, well, 3 days on the whole trip. This is one of the 3 days that we got up early to leave. Mr. Garrett said we had to leave by 9 because it was an hour trip there, and we needed to get there in time to catch the best guide, because he had a specific guide that he wanted us to take, because this guy was better than the rest of them, and he'd take us on the best scuba diving trip that, in his opinion. So we needed to leave early. So we all did get up. We all did get up early, and we all left early, and we took off for this place. And before we left, again, Anga chimes in, and Mr. Garrett had told me that it's a paved road almost all the way there. Right before we get there, it turns to dirt, but it's not very far. Okay, I can do a little dirt road riding, no big deal. Well, Anga chimes in before we leave, and she says, "Oh, you don't worry. It's a good ride there, and you hit the dirt road. And if it's too bad for you, you don't worry about the dirt road. You can pull over and just park, and you can walk in because it's not very far." So, okay, so we leave. We go. We leave the pavement, and we get on this off-road dirt road. This is not a dirt road like we are accustomed to here.
Inga
This
voice
is
is
an
top
off-road
notch.
with
Top
large
notch.
aggregates, soft sand, totally for dirt bike riding, not for a street bike whatsoever. Okay. So I take off on this dirt road trail, and everybody leaves me because they can ride faster than me. I can go 5 to 10 miles an hour on this road without tearing the total crap out of my bike. So I ride this short way in, if you will, is what I was told. And I didn't do the mileage on the way in. It was a white knuckle ride. There was nothing comfortable, nothing smooth about it. You get to one turn and you think, oh, it's just got to be up over here because after all, it's not very far. And you get to that point and it's not there, and it's not at the next one, and it's not at the next one. And well, finally I get there, and Lee and Terry are ready to leave and go do their dirt ride, and boom, they're gone. Glenn and I go up to sign up in for the scuba diving. And of course, our guide has already left. He's already taken someone out. So Glenn and I have to sit there and wait for 2 hours for the next guide to take us out. Okay, that's what we have to do. So we sat there and we waited. We had a very great scuba diving trip. That was 100% good. That part was. As soon as that was over, I had the dread of riding that same road all the way back out of there, which at this point, I set my mileage to find out how long this short little drive was. This short little drive, Your Honor, was over 9 miles, which, doing simple math, at 5 miles an hour, which means it takes me an hour to ride this short little distance that you could just walk into, right? Again, misinformation, lies, or absolute just total fabrication. I don't know what it is, but Anga and Mr. Garrett are just misleading me all the way along here. So I get out of there, and Glenn was kind enough to wait for me because we do have rider camaraderie here, and we do wait for each other and take care of each other. At least Terry and Glenn take care of me, and I take care of them.
Can you feel
Now,
the
where
camaraderie?
Mr. Garrett was in all this, I was not taken care of at all. So Glenn and I get done with our scuba diving. We go back to the room, and that was our first day there. We get up for the next day, and we're going to take off, and they're going to take off and go do a dirt ride. And so I take that time and decide that I'm going to rent a ATV, a little four-wheeler, and ride up and down the beach. Because this is a real small town. There's really nothing to go see on the street. So I rent this, and I get back. Well, actually, I rent it, and I come back to get something from my room, different shorts or shoes or something, so I could go into the ocean. And they had problems and came back, and somewhere in there had decided that they couldn't even go on the ride. So I get a text, one of the last texts, and you can see that in there. One of the last texts that I got in this message thing was saying that, oh, well, they're done and they want to leave and they want to be gone by 1. Well, I had rented this thing like an hour and a half earlier, and I had it for over half a day. So I went back and I took the thing back. That was my choice. That was $100 out of my pocket that I really did not even get to enjoy. But something that was not presented to me at day one was Mr. Garrett sold me a 14-day trip, and Mr. Joseph had sold Terry and Glenn a 13-day trip. Not hard to figure out who's going to get jacked out of a day here because we're all riding together. So I get let in on the finalization of our last few days is going to have to be a hard ride to get back, because Terry and Glenn have to get back by a certain time to catch a plane so they can get on with their day, because that was the end of their 13-day trip. They had that all lined out from day one. I didn't know anything about that. Not that big a deal. So that getting taken down from a 14-day to a 13-day trip took out the deep sea fishing, and it took out riding the whole loop. So out of the 3 things that I requested, I got to go scuba diving and I got to ride, and that was it. So out of the Los Borealis trip, I'm sorry, I had that backwards. The scuba diving was the last day, and Mr. Garrett will probably correct all my little time frames here, but all this stuff happened. It's just where it happened on the trip. I did not ever expect that I would have to do a day-by-day accounting of what we did. But we did get out of there for the scuba diving. We got out of there at 8. We could have got there by 9 if I had a dirt bike, but I didn't. It cost me the extra hour, so we missed the trip. And we got a decent guide. We were happy. Glenn and I were both happy with the guide and the scuba diving we got. We got back from that, and when Lee got back, he said, how was the trip to the scuba diving? And I looked at him and I just said, we'll save that for another day. Well, Mr. Garrett, this is the other day. That should have never happened. That destroyed my bike. I brought a 2000 Yamaha Roadstar in original condition, because I take very good care of my stuff. And by the time I was off of this road, I needed the whole rear end of my bike rebuilt. It broke the frame of my fender. It broke everything off of the back. I had to literally strap my battery that was on my luggage rack. I had to strap it up to my sissy support on the back of my seat.
So all this is
So
because
that
his
would
rear end
support my
needs
whole back
attention.
fender, because if I didn't, that whole back fender would have fell off and fell down in my back tire and blew my back tire out, probably would have crashed, who knows. But I had to do what I had to do to get my bike back after riding on that one road for 18 miles. Very, very bad call on guidesmanship here. Just should have never happened. And Mr. Garrett knows the difference between a street bike and a dirt bike. He knows the difference. So my bike all tore up. We are now in the, we got to get back, and we got to get back quick mode. So we leave out of Los Borealis. We left out reasonably early that day. It was not a 8 o'clock leaving. I think we got out of there 9:30 maybe. Well, no, as a matter of fact, now that I'm looking at my notes, because I got my days mixed up in Los Borealis, the scuba diving was the second day, and they all went to go ride, and it didn't work out. We had to leave early, so I canceled. We left so we could get a good jump on the ride that we were going to have. So that's where we left Los Borealis, and we made it back to Constitucion. Okay, that was going to be our 10th night stay. So again, all through this trip, Terry and I are out in front. And my request to the group was, I do not want to be the lead, and I do not want to be the tail. I want to be rider 2 or rider 3. I want to be in the cradle somewhere. Again, these guys are very experienced riders. These guys were able to go down the road and be able to text each other while they're going down the road on a motorcycle. I am nowhere near capable of that. On a good day, I could not even try to do that. Would not try to do that. But these guys are able to do it and
You want
not
us to be
crash.
the meat
That's
and
all good.
sandwich here.
So we come into Constitucion, and Terry and I talk, and we pull up the map, and we go to the north side of town because we're going north. And after Angus saying that, oh, we stay on the side of town, that we're leaving from, we go all the way through town and we go to a hotel that looks very nice. It doesn't have a star rating on it. It just says top rated motel. So we go over there, Terry and I go over there, and we talk to the lady. We ask her to show us the rooms. She shows us very, very nice rooms, nicer rooms than any of them we stayed in. Shows me a very nice king bed, shows Terry a double queen bed for them. And the whole kicker to this, Your Honor, was my king size room was $38. Their double room was $47. Okay. We weren't trying to stay at the Ritz and for $200 or $300 a night. Okay. But we were trying to get a good night's sleep. So
It's a
Terry
good
is
thing,
on the messaging,
because that's
and
not
he's
enough.
messaging Mr. Garrett. Well, Mr. Garrett, after he finds out that this is where we're at and this is where we want to stay, this is where your clients want to stay. Okay. Your clients want to stay here. No, Mr. Garrett gets to town and he finds this 1-star hotel in the middle of town, right by the main intersection, and finds him and actually has a king bed, which, Your Honor, I believe here is where the king bed comes into play. The next picture you see there is a picture of my bike that is on the sidewalk way down the hallway there. I'm not staying anywhere down there. I'm staying clear back here behind this picture in another room, but that is the only place that there is an electrical outlet that I can plug my bike into so it can charge all night long. Okay. The other place that we had easy access to a plug-in. I mean, it just had all the accommodations we could ever hope for. So the next picture of that is a closer up picture of my bike clear down this hallway. And you can see all those lights going down there. Those are rooms. So these people are walking out of their rooms and there's my bike sitting right outside their room in their way. I did not like that situation at all. That was not comfortable for me and the protection of my bike at all. So the next picture you'll see there is a king size bed. Hey, I got a king size bed. It was a comfortable king size bed. Now the water out of the shower ran out into the room all over the floor, but it was a king size bed. I will give him that. The whole kicker to this staying at this place was, again, I don't sleep. So I go out in the middle of the night, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. I take a walk around the area. This is supposed to be one of the reasons he said we're staying here is because they got secured gates. They lock the gates at night. Was this true? It absolutely was not true. Those gates were open all night long. You could push through those gates, come in and out. The gates were not locked. The gates weren't even closed half the time. So while I'm walking around, I walk down and check my bike. Somebody had walked near my bike and knocked the plug out, so my bike wasn't even charging. So I didn't get a full charge on my bike. So now I'm not even sure if I'm going to make it to the next destination because my bike is not even getting the proper charge, because this is where Mr. Garrett wants us to stay. Okay. Again, not good accommodations. I did get a king bed, but other than that, it wasn't great. Up to this point, I was called every night for dinner, whether by Mr. Garrett, by Lee, by Glenn, by somebody. I knew when dinner was happening so I could go to dinner. They told me dinner was happening. I go to dinner this night and I'm just livid. I'm livid. I don't have words. So I just shut up, because I know if I start saying something, bad words are going to come out. I will regret what I say. So I just clammed up. I told Terry, I'm done talking to them. I will talk to you and Glenn. I will find out what I need to from you, because I can't even speak to him now because it's not going to go well. Well, he gets to the rooms. We get to the rooms and Mr. Garrett pulls this truck, and come to find out the truck's not even his. This is a borrowed truck. And he pulls this truck in, and after three attempts to try to back this truck into a place that is impossible for anybody to back this truck in. I'm waiting for him to stop that truck long enough so I can get my bag out, so I can go into the room, so I can get into a cold shower and I can get the heat off of my body. So I'm getting pretty livid. After 3 times of him doing this, I finally tell him, pull in that way, pull this way, and back into the spot. That's the only way you're going to get in there. And he hollers at me, well, that's what I was going to do. I said, well, get it done. So he gets it done. I get my bag, I take it and I put it in my room, and then I slammed my door. Not hard enough to damage anything, but enough to, because they were staying, him and Anger were staying right next door to me. And Terry and Glenn were staying on that wing where my bike was parked on the sidewalk. So we're not staying near each other. So I slammed my door to give them a message, caused no damage of any kind, but I'm sending them a message that I've had enough. Step up and do what you're supposed to, because I've had enough. So we go on into dinner. This place that he stayed at had this, well, weak restaurant there where we could eat, because we were coming in later in the evening, because we left later in the morning, couldn't get there at a decent time. So every place we stayed, we got there in the evening, and there was no time to go out and see the area. There was no time to go enjoy any of the stuff except for the places we stayed 2 nights. There was a night there that we could go out, and I did go out and see some of the town during those times. But the rest of the time it was pretty much almost dark before we got there. So we get into this place and we sit down for dinner, and I don't remember if we even had our food at this point, but Mr. Garrett and Terry are going back and forth about different things, and they're arguing over different issues. And again, Anga decides to chime in, and she the whole time is talking like she's an owner of this tour. She's talking like she owns it. She's talking like she operates it. And she just talks and talks. And Terry asked her at least 3 times to be quiet. And then finally told her to shut up. And then Mr. Garrett chimes in, and you don't talk to my wife that way. And again, Your Honor, I said not a word, not a word. And I never said another word to him for the rest of the trip until the last day. And I will address that when I get there. Not a word, not a message to him at all, at all. Okay. So she chimes in, she gets told to shut up. She doesn't shut up. There's an issue. That was over for that night in Constitucion. And we were on to our next day. And we were heading towards back for our second night stay in San Ignacio, where he put me up in the different hotel and had them in a different place. We're going back to stay in this same town. And I'm assuming that we're going to go and he will at least put us in the hotel I stayed in. Is that the case? No. No, he's telling Terry that all the rooms there are booked, which we did take the time and went to the hotel that I stayed in. And this is one place that Mr. Garrett did tell the truth, that hotel was booked. That hotel was booked. Not all the hotels were booked. That hotel was booked. So they have a chain of hotels there that we had seen along the way called the Desert Inn. And these are very nice accommodation hotels. I would stay at any of them anywhere along, because we ended up staying there at 2 different locations at these Desert Inns. Okay, so they're very nice. They're like I'd compare them to a Holiday Inn, which I would consider a really nice place. I did not expect to stay in places like the Marriott or the Ritz or any places like that. I didn't know what to expect. I never been there, never been on a 14-day trip in my life. This is way out of my comfort zone. So he ends up finding some kind of places for Terry and Glenn, and he puts me in the Desert Inn. So I'm in the Desert Inn, and then here shows up Terry and Glenn because they are totally disgusted with the accommodations that they were going to get. And they complained to him. So he moved them over to the Desert Inn where I was staying. So we get to the Desert Inn and everything's good. We clean up. And up to this point, we had all been going in the truck to go to dinner. All of us jumped in the truck and we'd go to dinner. And this is the point to where I quit getting any information from Mr. Garrett at all, any dinner invites, any, hey, this is going to happen. Again, my bike needs to be charged. So I need to get to the motel and get that dude on a charge. So it's got every chance to charge up, knowing that the night before it didn't get a full charge. I really, really needed it on a full charge all night long so it could get a full charge. So Mr. Garrett knows this. He knows I need a ride to wherever we're going to eat. Do I get a ride? No. Do I get a message? No. Do I get any kind of communication? No. By the time I reach out to Terry and Glenn, they've already got the message and they're already downtown at the place to eat. I'm left out. So I go to the hotel diner there and I eat at the hotel there, which is one of the receipts you will have here at the end because I did get a copy of the receipt, which they wouldn't give me a receipt. They just told me to take a picture of the receipt, and that's why I have a picture of it. So I was totally left out there of dinner and everything. I get up the next morning, I go out to my bike, and somebody had bumped the plug out there. And this was out off the side. This was out some of the hotel help had to have walked by it, and it was dark. They couldn't see it, and they probably had no idea what they really hit. And so it was unplugged again. And again, I'm up in the middle of the night. So I'm out there checking at 2 o'clock in the morning. I find it unplugged. I get it plugged back in. It does not get a full charge. So now I'm leaving again, not knowing if I'm going to make it to my next destination or not. Talking to Terry and Glenn, they tell me, oh yeah, you will make it. You'll be fine. And I was. They were right. So again, Desert Inn is a very nice place, but again, he chooses me to put me in full-size beds again, a double room of full-size beds again. So we're into day 11. I have had one king bed out of 11 days. Okay. So this time, Terry and Glenn put out the map in front of me and they say, we're going to Catavina is how I'm pronouncing it, Catavina. And this is a half horse town. I mean, they don't even got room in this town for one horse, out on the highway anyway.
Let him.
They tell me that's where we're going to stay and that's where we're going to get gas.
All this is.
Well, again, I didn't want to be the lead bike, but Terry pulled off to take a picture or do something, and I ended up being the lead bike. I come to Katina, whatever that is, and on my left side is a bunch of palm trees, and I could not see the motel at all. Matter of fact, Terry or Glenn said they missed it until they turned around. They couldn't see the motel. On the right-hand side was a closed gas station. So I see the gas station and it's closed. There are no marker signs out there saying this is Catativa. It's not marked at all. So I don't know I'm at my destination. I know I'm running out of gas and I know I'm not on reserve. And when I hit reserve, I've got about 15, if I'm lucky, 20 miles, and I'm totally out. So I zip right on past this town, out on the other side, and I'm watching my mileage, and I pass this little Katina over there, and there wasn't nobody there. And another 5-8 miles down the road, there's another one, and there's a car beside this one. So I passed that one, and I'm thinking, man, I've got to have went too far. So I turned around and I went back to this place, and they advertised they got cold drinks and whatnot. And so I go inside, and they don't have cold drinks. They don't have gas. They don't have nothing. This guy just tells me we don't have nothing. So you will see in the messages there on the Baja side, you will see that I was asking for help. You'll see that I was telling them that I was out of gas. The only problem with that was I was in a no reception area. Those messages weren't going anywhere. I'm in the middle of the desert. Nobody's getting my messages, although they know that I'm in front of them and they know that I'm missing at this point. So I'm out here in the desert and I begged this guy to please sell me a little bit of gas. Well, he charges me an outrageous price. I paid him like $25 for 1 gallon of gas, which I was very happy to do because with that 1 gallon, I could make it back to town. That was good. So I get the gas, I put it in. I think, okay, I'm good now. Well, he sold me a bad gallon of gas. He knew he was selling me a bad gallon of gas. I get 1.5 miles, 2 miles from this place. My bike dies totally in the desert. These roads are literally 8.5 feet wide, just wide enough for an 18-wheeler to go down them. No shoulders. If you're lucky, the shoulder will drop off maybe 2 inches. It could drop off anywhere between 2 inches and 2 feet or clear down into a total valley. Okay. So I am now run out of fuel, but I'm coasting. I get up over this little rise and I see this bush tree down there, the only thing that could provide me any kind of shade that I could sit underneath for a while. So I get down there to it. I find an area that I could drop off and not hurt my bike much more. I drop off and they got these big old wide ditches that the farmers use and the dirt riders use. And so I get off down there, I get into some soft sand. I ended up having to push my bike probably 50, 75 yards to get up to this place where I could have my bike near me and I could sit near it and get a little shade. And in the process of doing this, I tear a hernia on the left side of my groin. Extreme pain. But luckily I had hauled 2 canteens of water. We're late in the afternoon. I'd been out there for over an hour and I'm thinking, okay, nobody's coming to get me. They've had plenty of time.
Ma'am, are you a
Mr.
whore?
Garrett had plenty of time to get there, get gas, and come out and get me. Come out and find me. Nobody comes. I'm literally trying to flag down people. And there's probably, I'm going to say probably, it's not a super traveled highway, but probably 30 vehicles went past me, going back to town where I needed to go. And I'm going to say probably 10 of those were probably 18-wheelers. 18-wheelers aren't going to stop. They think you're going to rob them out there. So I knew they wouldn't stop. So I'm trying to flag cars down. Well, finally a farmer and his son go by. And I mean, I'm out there, I got my hands up, please, just give me some help. Well, they go on by and I count them gone and I'm going, okay, well, I've got to figure my way out of this because I ain't getting any help. And so I take my bag off and I'm about to take my bag and I take it out probably 20 yards and I hide it behind some bushes because I can't carry all this stuff. I'm fixing on attempting to try to walk 20 miles back to town, because I don't have any other choice. Well, this farmer and his son come back and by the grace of God, they had 4 gallons of fresh gas. I gave them $100 for 4 gallons, was mighty happy to get it. But they gave it, they were kind enough. They let me take the time. I had to get my tools out. I had to take my fuel line off. I had to drain out all the old gas. I had to put some new gas in, flush it around, drain that out, then put the good gas in. After all that time, I was out there 1.5 to 2 hours. And again, by the grace of God, he sent me help. I'm heading back to town. I get back to Catativa there, and Mr. Garrett is sitting by the gas. And the gas at this point is a guy that has a pickup truck, and he has multiple gallons in single gallon containers in the back of his truck for high dollar price. But gas is included in my deal. So, Lee is complaining, Mr. Garrett's complaining the whole time about the price of the gas and only get just what you need, only get just what you need. Well, I got no idea what I need, but I have 4 gallons in there, or actually 3.5. So the 1 gallon that he actually put in at that stop gave me a full tank. So we're good to go. I'm in major pain. I get my room. I get cleaned up. Again, not called for dinner. Terry and Glenn are called for dinner. Mr. Garrett meets them and has dinner with them. I get to have dinner by myself and pay for my own dinner. That's in the receipts as well. Setting a pattern now, so I'm not surprised with how he's going about all this. Again, no communication whatsoever. I communicate with Terry and Glenn, and they tell me next day we're going to well, that one's on your map too. In Ensenada, they say we're going to stay at Ensenada, because that's going to be close enough to the border that we can get from Ensenada across the border and get them back to catch their plane and catch their time frame right. So okay, I know where we're going, and making it through that night. Again, and this was a desert inn also. It was a nice place, but again, full-size bed, not king or queen. So we get up, and these are early starts. We're out and we're gone by 9, 8:30 sometimes. So we are getting early starts because they now are pushing to make sure we get back on time. So now there is reason to get up and go early, I guess. So we get up from there and we head to Ensenada, and we stop and we have lunch along the way, and we get to Guadalupe, and I'm following Terry, and Mr. Garrett and Glenn are back behind us about 20 minutes, 20, 30 minutes. And again, so we get to Ensenada, and we go through Ensenada to the north side because again, we're leaving north. And we end up going to Guadalupe, which is, I don't have the mileage, another 15 miles on towards the border on the other side of Ensenada. And we find a gas station there. We fuel up there, Terry and I, and we're waiting on Glenn. No word from Mr. Garrett at all. And you'll see that in the messages. Terry is trying to get a hold of him, and we don't know if he's even coming. We don't know if he's even going to finish the trip here or not. But finally, he gets a hold of him, and he said he's coming up and he's going to be paying for everything. Well, we find a hotel, and there was something going on, a wine fest or something going on in Ensenada. So hotels were hard to find. But again, we're 15, 20 miles north of there. So we look it up, or Terry looks it up, and he finds one. And we go over there and look at it. And we even, because again, Mr. Garrett wasn't there. So we all pay for the hotel out of our pocket. So we got rooms. Well, Mr. Garrett shows up 30 minutes, 45 minutes, whenever it was after that. He shows up to the hotel, and he goes and he pays for the hotel, and the hotel guy refunds both our money because we all paid cash. So he ended up actually paying for the hotel. Now, this is not Mr. Garrett's fault that I got a full-size bed there. I was told it was going to be a queen, and the guy showed Terry and I a double queen for them, and he told me mine was going to be a queen. I didn't get a queen at this point. I don't care. I just want to get back to the States and leave all this misery behind me, and just go on. So at this point, Lee pulls up, and again, he goes up and he deals with the hotel guy, and he's paying everything. And I find the place to plug in my bike. I got my bike plugged in, got it charging, and Terry walks out there to Glenn's bike and he pulls the key out. And he shows me he's got the key. And he says, he ain't leaving till we talk. And I said, that's fine with me. I said, because I need to talk to him about when I'm going to get my bike back. Because my bike, the deal of my bike was he took it down there and he was supposed to have it back to me within 3 days. 3 days of when the trip was over. That was our agreement. And so haven't spoke to him for 3 days now. The only thing I need to discuss with Mr. Garrett is making sure my bike is going to get taken care of the way we agreed upon. Terry had a whole lot of issues that he wanted to discuss with Mr. Garrett before he left. That's why he took the key out of his bike, so he couldn't leave until they had their talk. So I stayed by my bike. They were probably 20 yards away. I let Terry and Mr. Garrett have their conversation. And when they were wrapping up, Terry had offered to be the intermediary in between us, because I told him I don't even want to speak to the guy. I just want to know when my bike is going to get back to me. So as I'm walking up, Terry starts addressing him about my bike. And Mr. Garrett sits there and gets this dumbfounded look on his face and said, I don't know why I would have said 3 days. There's no way I could get it there in 3 days. And Your Honor, I lost it at that point. I dropped the F-bomb and I told him he better effing figure it out real damn quick, or we're going to have some real serious issues here, because I've had it. And he stumbles back and forth and goes, well, I don't even know what I can do. I got to check my calendar. And I said, check your effing calendar and give me a date and get away from me, because I've had all I can take. Those were my exact words. And that's the only 2 F-bombs I dropped. That was the only time I spoke to him for the rest of the trip. And he stumbled around and he pulled his calendar out and said, well, I can get it to you on the 27th, which ironically is the 3 days after my 14th day trip. But I didn't get my 14th day. I got 13 days. Mr. Garrett did not contact me, give me any kind of information about riding another 14th day at all. He was getting his bike and he was heading back to where Anga was staying in San Felipe. Where I was going to ride for that 14th day, clear back up to the border, there was nowhere to ride. There was nothing to do up there. Made no sense. So I rode on, and he knew I was riding on because Terry told him I was riding on and going back with them because I wasn't getting a 14th day of my trip. So after the conversation was over, after he gave me a day, which was the 27th, did I get it on the 27th? No. Did I get it on the 28th? No. Did I get it on the 29th? Yes. I finally got my bike on the 29th. Did Mr. Garrett bring my bike? No. Mr. Garrett sent the owner of the chase truck, because the owner of the chase truck went on the February trip and he crashed and hurt himself real bad, and they had to fly him back to the States. So he had to leave his truck and his bike there. So Mr. Garrett commandeered his truck as the chase truck and then commandeered his bike as his bike to ride on the last 3 days, because Miss Anga decided she was done with the trip in Constitucion, and she took the chase truck and she went back to San Felipe, is what I was told. So Mr. Garrett gets on this other guy's bike and he rides the last 3 days on this other guy's bike and sends the girlfriend back to his camper back in San Felipe. So all this comes down to getting back on the 23rd when my day trip was supposed to be on the 24th. So I will just have you look at those messages for just a couple of areas in there to take note of on the Baja 2025 messages. You will see that my first contact was on the 6th, and that was where I got hooked up on the app. That is the one and only time I spoke with Joseph at all about anything that has to do with this trip, because again, I did not sign up with Joseph. I signed up with Mr. Garrett. My my second one was on February 26th. And if you look close at that, I never got an answer to my question from Mr. Garrett. So we come down to March 9th, and this is the first part of our trip, and we're coming in to getting ready to go. He told us that he was getting us a deal on the scuba diving of 150. When we got there, Your Honor, that was not a special deal. That was the regular price. There was no deal price in that. That was their actual regular price that both Mr. Glenn and I both paid, and that was fine. Mr. Garrett claimed that the regular price was 170. Didn't see anything that substantiated that at all at the scuba diving place. So March 11th, you'll see on there that Mr. Lee made a comment, because we're in our second day of the trip, and there's a bunch of confusion about what Joseph had promised them compared to what Mr. Garrett had promised me. So you will see on March 11th, Mr. Lee made the comment that commented about these punks wanting gas. Mr. Garrett is commenting about his clients and calling them punks. Now, he is saying that in a, he tried to make light of that in his messages, but that's no way to talk about your clients. That's just wrong. Okay. So on the same messages on the March 19th, I'm asking where everyone is, and ask Lee directly. Again, no answer. My guide is not even answering me. I don't have a guide. I don't have a guide. I paid for a guide, but I don't have a guide. Okay, and at the hotel at the Constitucion, you will find there on the 19th, we brought up the very fact that we were trying to stay on the north side of town because that's what Angus said they like to do. So we followed suit. And then that wasn't okay because he didn't want to stay there. He wanted to stay at the one-star cheap place in town, which I can't imagine how much cheaper that place was than $38 a night. But I mean, come on, $38 a night. I mean, how high is that? Okay. So I'll also ask you to look over at the messages with that's labeled Lee Prayer. And I'll have you roll down to Lee's apology and my apology. Let's see, on mine, which is odd, but I felt very bad that I lost my temper.
I don't have these
threw out the
issues.
2 F-bombs. So you will see on the Baja 25, I apologized to him, and I told him that I'm making a public apology because I spoke publicly, and I wanted it known by everybody that was out there, because there was actually another couple that was staying at the hotel that were sitting outside on the swings that heard all this. I mean, we weren't hollering. They were just in close proximity where they were able to hear it. So I wanted to make an apology. Terry went and made a personal apology to them personally, and made an apology to the hotel manager personally. And I made this public apology on the 2025 Baja. And that was like at I don't know. I'd have to go back and look 2 or 3 in the morning because again, I'm up because I don't sleep. Mr. Lee goes over to his personal messages, and you will see on March 23rd on the Lee prayer, the one that's labeled Lee prayer, you will see his apology over there on this different site. So he took his apology and moved it from the Baja and took it over here so only I could see it because he didn't want Terry and Glenn to see that he apologized. In that apology, you will see him take account that I did not get what I paid for. You will see him take account that there should be some kind of refund made for the difference of what I didn't get. And then you will come down and you will see where I confirmed on March 29th that I got my bike back on the 28th. Those are the only things in that realm of messages that I'd like to draw your attention to. Moving to the last one there that is labeled Terry and Joe. These are the messages on this trip between Joseph and Terry that are outlining everything that went on in the trip. If you will notice the 311 message, they are lining out what is included in the trip, which they say breakfast, dinner, tank of fuel, and hotels. I was only given either dinner or breakfast. And the comment that Lee made to Terry and Glenn, which they came to me to find out why he made this comment, because they had questions why I got to stay in the nice hotel in San Ignacio, and he told them it was because I paid more. Well, I paid more because I had a 14-day trip, not a 13-day trip. My king and queen was included in my price, should have been well included in theirs for nice stays for them. But that's their issue that they have to bring up on their own. So then if you roll on down on 321, you will see Lee got lost. Lee got lost out riding in the dirt and caused all kinds of issue there between them. You will go on down and you will see where when I was stuck out in the desert and Lee made it to Catativa, he pulled in and Terry was there and he asked Terry to go out there and find me in the desert. And Terry will confirm this as we circle back around here in a minute, that Terry told him, no, that's not his job. And so Lee said, okay, he was going to go find me. Did Lee come and find me? Absolutely not. Did Lee even look for me? Nobody knows, because I was only 20 miles out. So Lee's looking for me. Maybe he went 19 miles. I don't know. All I know is he didn't go 20 miles and find me. I was left. I was abandoned in the desert. My guide was not present. My guide did not help me. My guide did not come find me. My guide did not do nothing on my behalf there at all, at all. Again, by the grace of God, with the farmer and his son, I made it back totally on my own. Now, I do know without a doubt that Terry and Glenn were going to get on their bikes and they were going to come find me because we had that rider camaraderie between us. But again, when I pulled back into Catativa, there is Mr. Garrett sitting beside the gas pump. Did he come and look for me? I don't think so. I don't think so. There's no proof of him coming to look for me at all. So that will take us down to the next picture you have there is the Desert Inn where I stayed in the Desert Inn, and that's my receipt for dinner. That was the dinner that I didn't get called for. The next picture is the 2 full-size beds in the Desert Inn that I stayed in Catativa. This next picture, Your Honor, is exactly not necessarily put on an erase board like this, but this, I took a picture of this because this is the general idea of what, and Terry and Glenn agreed, this is what we should have been presented with on a daily basis of the daily itinerary. This tour group was very, very good. You can see 6:45 breakfast, 7:45 we're packed up, and 8 o'clock we're on the bus. That is a tour guide. That is a tour. That is what we expected. Did we get that? Not a single day. Not any day on the trip whatsoever. Nothing even in the ballpark. The next picture you'll see is the picture of the Desert Inn in Catativa, where I finally made it back to with the hernia. The next picture you see there is the picture of the Gravel Travel Overland Tours, which is the bike cover that he covered my bike up outside this hotel for a whole month. My bike sat out in front of this hotel instead of in a toy hauler inside taken care of. It was left to anybody and anybody. Thank goodness that nothing happened to it. My bike was fine. So I took the Gravel Travel Overland Tours cover off, and I put it in the back of my SUV that I drove down there, along with his 2 boxes of his equipment stuff, and we took off on the tour. So the next picture you see is my fender and my inner fender all stripped down. You'll see my bike all taken in pieces because I had to rebuild the whole back end of it after that scuba diving road ride. The next picture is the receipts of gas and food that I spent along the way, because again, he quit paying for gas. He quit paying for meals. Luckily, he did pay for the hotels. The next picture is also receipts. The last one is the picture of the no, that picture is the picture of the scuba diving. That's my receipt from scuba diving. And I believe you can
Hearing is still going.
pull that up. Well, you'd
And
have
no,
to,
I'm not joking.
it was $150 US. That's in pesos right there. And have to do the math to see that it's 150, but it was $150 to scuba dive. The next picture is picture of the receipt of my ATV that I canceled so we could leave on time and get back for Terry and Glenn. So that's the receipt of my $100 that was wasted there. Which now I will give Lee the benefit of the doubt, Mr. Garrett, the benefit of the doubt here, that he did tell me that I could go ahead and ride out my ride there and we could leave later in the evening. And I was like, no, that's not good. So my choice, technically, to burn the $100, but again, bad guidemanship. It shouldn't have ever happened. I shouldn't have had to make that choice to decide to go ahead and leave and throw my $100 out the window. So the okay, and then the next picture doesn't matter, but the following picture is just a picture of my check and for the tour, and you can see it was clearly made out to Lee Garrett because he insisted on having it written to himself, and that is the end of all those message situations that I have you look at.
Forgive me, I think you may have testified to this, but was the check you were referring to, was it for $3,800?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, 3,800. So the after events, after the trip, I've already stated that March 29th, my bike did get returned to me. June 3rd, I had hernia surgery, a lot of pain and suffering in that. And complications from that surgery stressed out my body, and I ended up with shingles after that. So I've now I've only been two.
Oh,
weeks,
sweet
3
Jesus.
weeks,
What?
2 to 3 weeks recovered from the misery of the hernia that I got on the trip. You will also see as you look down on the Lee prayer messages, you will see many attempts that I made to settle with him. Many attempts I tried to work it out with him. I even tried to have a brother from the prayer group where we met come in and do mediation. You will see where Lee bounced around, gave me different excuses. Not only that, he couldn't even get back to town until the 10th. So I had to wait till the 10th for him to get back. When he didn't even come back, he sent the other guy back. And so it's just all confusing. It ended up just, this thing just dragged on and on and on. And now we've had continuances. And so now we're in August when this should have been all taken care of, clear back there in probably May somewhere, you know? So all that said, Your Honor, at this point in time, I would like to call my witness, Terry Henrik.
Well, before you do that, I'm going to give Mr. Garrett a chance to ask you
yes,
any
sir.
questions he may have.
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Garrett. Oh, I think you may be muted, sir.
I can't hear.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Reiner, can you tell me, if you wanted to have a guide with you, why you elected to take off in the lead on so many days that you claim that I was not there?
Well, Mr. Garrett, I never took off on the lead on any single day. Never did I take off on the lead. I ended up in the lead, as I have stated in testimony on the Cativa one. Very seldom did I find myself in the lead. That was one time that I found myself at the lead at a very bad time.
Exactly. Why would you have done that?
Well, I passed the guy on the side of the road that was in lead in front of me, so I kept going.
Okay, so you followed his lead then instead of the guide.
My guide was 30 minutes behind me by his choice.
Because I have to, as a guide, I have to make sure that the slowest person stays with the group. Okay, I have to make sure that the guy behind doesn't get left behind in case he were to have a problem. I would have to double back and go get him, which is what I did for you when you elected to go ahead and ran out of fuel because you didn't know where you were going. And so you drove past the point of destination, past the fuel stop. And when I got to the fuel stop and Mr. Heinrich was there, he told me, hey, you know, that guy's ahead. He took off. He doesn't have hardly any gas left. He couldn't have any fuel left. So you need to go chase him down. You need to go tend to him. So I grabbed the fuel bladder and I took off. And unaware of just how far you had gone, I ran close on my own fuel and had to turn around and come back and get fuel. That's why you found me at the gas station. I was refueling to go back and get you with the bladder of fuel. But I had to refuel my own bike because you'd gone a lot further, and I had no idea if you made it to all the way to Colonet or not. I didn't know, so I had to go refuel because I knew there was no fuel there, because that's what a guide does. They know where the fuel is. You did not, and you went ahead anyway and struck out into the desert by your own admission, into the desert, into the heat, knowing that you didn't do well in heat. I became rather highly concerned at that point, grabbed the fuel from Mr. Heinrich and took off. My biggest mistake in that was assuming that I had enough fuel myself to get to you and back, but I knew that I had a very short amount of time. So another question. When we stayed in La Paz, we devoted almost an entire day to two motorcycles that were very, very ill prepared. First of all, you indicated to me that your battery had been replaced because you had had a battery problem, wouldn't hold a charge or something like that. And sure enough, it wouldn't hold a charge because your generator wasn't charging the battery. And I was very explicit with all of the tour members. You have to check your machine out from top to bottom. Any question marks and tires, chains, cables, filters, any of that stuff has to be done before you leave. Do you remember having that conversation?
Yes, I do, Mr. Garrett. Your Honor, is there a question in this at all, or is this testimony?
Yeah, we're going somewhere with this. So,
I think he's
do
asking
you
a
remember-
question. I'll give him a little latitude to do that. Go
So
ahead.
do
Mr.
you-
Garrett.
do you remember you said, "Oh yeah, my bike's checked out"? So I have to assume that. So
Yes, I
now,
remember that very well because that was the case and it was checked out, and 3 days right in after it fails does not mean that there was a problem from day one.
well, certainly there was, and your charging system, in fact, wasn't intact when I left the country with it to haul it in. So anyway,
That's
so
absolutely
you
not true.
purchased,
There's no way that battery would have made it that far, Mr. Garrett. It didn't make it to the next gas station the next day. There's no
Absolutely,
way that
that's
battery
correct.
would have held for 3 days and then died there. That's just not true.
Well, it is true, but anyway, you admit you're not a mechanic, so I am. So I will tell you that, yeah, it is true. It could have made it that far. That's why it failed when it did. All right, next question. When, first of all, you claim that I quit paying for fuel. I never quit paying. It's just that y'all were so far ahead when we would stop and fuel up that you had to buy your own fuel. Y'all ran ahead of the group. Would you
Is there a
agree to
question
that?
in this, Your Honor?
Yeah. The question is, did you run ahead of the group and have to buy your own fuel?
There were 2 of us that were separated from the group quite often on account of a bad gear for the guy going slower. That was from day one. You made that choice. You said you were going to stay back with him. You told Terry and I to go ahead and ride forward and you would catch up. That was your direction.
I never told you to ride beyond your fuel.
Well,
Now,
that's,
you
I've
claim-
already took 100% account for my mistake. That does not let you out of your guideship to take care of things
Okay.
at all.
And I'm getting to that too. The fact of the matter is I never quit paying for fuel. It's just y'all rode ahead and chose to be so far in the front that I could not pay for your fuel until the end of the day, at which I gathered receipts and I reimbursed everybody that gave me receipts for fuel. How did you know where we were going from day to day? Since you refused to come to breakfast, and we had a meeting prior to ever leaving the United States that delineated out the entire map that I laid out on the table. We laid out the entire trip as the way it was planned to go. You recall that?
No, sir. It was never laid out. It was laid out in general that, yeah, we're riding Baja, we're going down this way. There was nothing laid out that we're going to stay here, then we're going to stay here, then we're going to stay here. No, there was no itinerary, as can be seen in all the messages before. Terry and Glenn asked over and over before the trip ever started for our itinerary, and you flat refused to give them anything. But what you did say to me and to them was, we start at this place and we can change things as we go.
I
As
didn't
long
say
as
we could
everybody
change the
agrees
trip.
to what they're doing, we can change as we go. You said that yourself.
I said, I didn't say we could change the destinations and the route of the trip. I said we could push things around about where we eat and that kind of thing. It wasn't until some of the other Canadians started making decisions about where we were going to stay and taking command and leading the trip and then stopping where they wanted and this kind of stuff, that's where things kind of started coming unhinged. That's where it seemed like I was having to not only deal with the problematic mechanical issues. Let's go back to that too, by the way. In La Paz, did I find not only a dealer for Yamaha marine parts, but did I find you after we dug around and found a voltage regulator that would work for you and you declined to make the purchase?
You're absolutely right. Because
Okay.
I told
So
you
I
from day
found you.
one, I told you from the
That's
start
all I need to
that
hear.
we
I'm not
did
asking
not
for a
need to do
diatribe.
that. I told
Your
you
Honor,
my
could
bike
you
was
please-
fixed and we're fine. Now, what we come to
It's
find
not
out that it was
fixed,
not
and
a
it wasn't
voltage
fine.
regulator problem. It was not a voltage regulator problem, so that would have not fixed it anyway.
You would have been able to let me source the problem. Did we then, after I found a problem, or I found a part that would probably address the problem, did we not go over and then at another motorcycle shop in the middle of La Paz, found a motorcycle pretty much identical to yours that we could have taken parts off of, and you just declined to, we didn't want to mess with that? Is that true?
Because I told you from the start, we were fixed.
No, you
We can
just
make it
answer
through the trip
question.
fine.
Yes or no? Answer the question. Did I find another motorcycle that was almost identical to yours? And the guy, I even talked to him and he said, yeah, you can take whatever parts you need. And you declined to make that repair. Is that true?
That is true, but it is not
Okay,
certain that
thank
those
you.
parts would fix.
Your Honor,
It
that's
is
what I
not
would like
certain
that
that those parts would fix it, number one. Number
I'm
two, we
not
would not
asking for
have
your
the other
opinion. You
parts
already said
because,
you're
Your
out of
Honor,
panic.
Just
Your
a
Honor?
second, just a second.
Your Honor,
Just a second. What I would like you to do, I think I mean, we're already pretty deep in, or very much looking like we're going to shoot way past 5 o'clock, getting to a finish line here, which is okay with the court. I feel bad for my colleagues, but and towards that end, Jackie, if it's just a question
I
of
bet he's married.
having the participants log out of the meeting, I think that's something we could take care of on our own. I hate for you to be here after 5, but in any event, in order to make this run as seamlessly as is possible, I would ask you, Mr. Reiner, to just answer the question. And then if after Mr. Garrett's cross-examination, you wish to make further statement or clarification, you may do that. But I don't think it's appropriate to sort of answer his question, but do so in kind of a longer running explanation that sometimes leaves him asking a follow-on question and you still speaking, and neither one of us being able to truly hear the other party. So if you could please just try to answer the question, and then you could make additional remarks if you wish to when he's finished. Go ahead, Mr. Garrett.
yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Reiner, on the final day of the tour, of the Canadians' 13th day, did you verbally assault me in the parking lot? And was there threats made to my personal health?
I testified to everything that happened.
Okay. At the Posada, because I have a written statement, and we have the police report here that was lodged against you for the assault, and there were witnesses involved there at Posada, the hotel. It sounds to me like you said that I went back to San Felipe after I left, paying for that last and final night that you were there at that Posada, which was in Guadalupe. The fact of the matter is, I went back to the hotel that I had reserved for us. That was a very nice hotel. It was a winery and a vineyard there. It was a beautiful hotel on the cliffs overlooking the Valley de Guadalupe. And but because you all decided to stay at a much more meager hotel, which is kind of what happened, kind of a thread throughout this towards the end of the trip, is everybody was kind of a free for all deciding where I was going to book, and when in fact I had places in mind that I was going to take you, but anyway, that's another thing. But at that point in time, did you elect to go and cross the border on the 13th day? Because I did not leave the town. I stayed at the hotel that I booked for us, and I was there the next day. But you had elected to take off on the 13th, or the 13th and final day for the Canadians. But we still had a full day of travel to go from Valle de Guadalupe all the way across through the Guadalupe Canyon, through Laguna Hansen, and all the way back to San Felipe, where there are fishing charters available and all the things that were available for the final day of your trip. Did you elect to just go ahead and abandon the trip on the 13th day by siding with the Canadians and going across at the border north of Ensenada?
No, I was abandoned on the trip. I had no
You
other
were
choice.
abandoned?
Yes,
You had no other choice?
yes.
So I made that trip. I made the final day of the trip alone because you had already left with the Canadians, didn't you?
I did.
Did I schedule us to cross at Tijuana?
I have no idea. I did not hear anything from you for 3 days.
Well, because
all.
you failed
At
to get on the WhatsApp. The WhatsApp delineated out most of the plans for the day and tried to keep everybody grouped up. But no, y'all were a full hour ahead, and I was trying to make sure that Glenn didn't get lost in Ensenada and all these kinds of things. Y'all shot out ahead. You took control of the trip, basically, it sounds to me like. Would you say that that was kind of a fair assessment?
Absolutely not.
Well, you followed somebody who wasn't in charge of the trip. You elected to cross the border with somebody who was not in charge of the trip. You crossed at a crossing that I don't recommend people to cross because it's questionable and in an area that's pretty questionable. That's why I am a guide, is I have researched and I've done this many, many times. I've been going across that border for 25 years and I kind of know where things go well and where they don't go well. And I try to make sure that safety is the primary goal of what we do. And I don't like when I'm accused of abandoning people when
Your
I'm
Honor,
trying to
this
be
is
safe.
testimony, not a question.
Yeah, I'm looking for a question, Your
This
Honor,
is-
also.
I'm
I'm going to give him a little latitude in terms of the setup, but yes, I would like to hear
Lot
a
of
question if
latitude.
you have one.
okay. Did you go across the border with the Canadians on day 13 of your trip?
I did.
Okay. You could have spoken to me. You have my phone number, cell service work there in Guadalupe Canyon. You could have WhatsApped me and gone with me on the 14th day of your trip. Did you decide to do that?
No, I did not.
Okay, thank you. One more question. You claim that I said that 3 days after the end of the trip, I was going to bring your bike. I contest and still contend that that conversation never happened. I said 3 days after I returned from my final trip. I have 3 days once I get into town. There's no conceivable way that with another 2-week trip that I could have even been back. I had a 2-week, week and a half.
A question again, Your Honor.
After this trip, and I went, you need to let me finish. Please be quiet. I could not have made that trip, but you said that I promised you that I would have it back 3 days after your trip. When did that conversation take place? And do you have anything in writing stating that?
No, I have absolutely nothing in writing from you from day one at all. That happened at the restaurant. And there is nobody that would release their bike without knowing exactly when it's coming back. That's ridiculous to even think that.
We do that all the time. We do it all the time.
I never do.
And well, that's clearly up to you. I have some questions for some of the others that are in attendance, and so I will.
Well, I think I'm going to let, if you don't have any further questions for
not Mr. Ryan.
Mr. Reiner, I'll let Mr. Reiner call his next witness.
Okay. that'd be
Well,
fine.
I would like to rebut some of the things he said, like you said I could, Your Honor.
Sure.
As far as I made all the statements clear about my mistake for getting stuck in the desert, that does not alleviate the guide's responsibility at all, no matter what. Still supposed to have a guide. Did not have a guide. As far as the 13th day and the 14th day, I had not got any information from my guide whatsoever for 3 days. And I got no communication for my 14th day whatsoever. So is it the client's job to contact the guide to find out? Or would it be more likely for the guide to tell the client what we're doing? That never happened. I never got nothing from him. It's all clear in the messages. He can say that I didn't do that. I was left without a 14th day of my ride. So yes, I opted to go back because I could not even conceive another day with Mr. Garrett on the road. Where would he leave me next time? Where would I get? I would not have anybody. So no, bad call all the way around. I made the best call I could.
I think
So,
this
yes.
might be a good place to take just a brief break before Mr. Reiner calls his next witness. I'm just going to take about a 5-minute recess. I'll try to reconvene about 3 minutes till 5. Thank you.
I agree with Brad that
Versus Garrett Gravel Travel Adventures 25 SC 015. Mr. Reiner, do you wish to call any other witnesses, sir?
Yes, I'm going to call Terry Heinrich, please.
All right. Mr. Heinrich, are you able to see and hear clearly, sir?
yes, I can.
All right. Go ahead, Mr. Reiner, if you have questions for him.
Mr. Heinrich, would you tell us about the quality of the accommodations you received?
I agree with Brad that we were not provided the accommodations that we expected. There's a slight difference. Glenn and myself booked a trip with Joe and Baja Expeditions Adventure at Waits. However, there's not much difference in what we were told in terms of the quality of the accommodations. So both myself and Glenn were very dissatisfied. The hotel rooms were definitely in the direction of flea bag rooms that I would not stay in under any circumstances. We never agreed on 3 different occasions to share a group house. That was never presented. I also feel that was inappropriate and not suitable. So there's no doubt the accommodations were not as promised. I also created a dispute with Adventure Awaits Travel because that's the agent I dealt with. And that dispute was my credit card, and the dispute was ruled in my favor, and $1,890 funded due to the fact that the tour had deficiencies and wasn't delivered as promised. Were definitely not acceptable.
Right. Mr. Reiner, do you have other questions for your witness?
Yes, Your Honor, I do. Mr. Heinrich, can you tell us why we felt we needed to go ahead and leave Glenn and Mr. Garrett in the back?
So Glenn and I were promised a dirt trip and prepared his bike specifically for dirt road speeds. Day 1, day 2, it became apparent that we had many miles of highway and not many miles of dirt. Glenn and I agreed that we would separate. The time we went on our first dirt ride from the San Javier mission, it became clear to me that Lee is completely inept as a guide. He didn't have a GPS, he didn't have a map, not a paper map. He didn't have a plan on how we were making our complete dirt loop back. He got us lost 3 different times. If it wasn't for my GPS and my understanding of the terrain, we'd still be out there. He didn't have a motorcycle to ride. He was riding his girlfriend's motorcycle. He didn't bring his own motorcycle on a motorcycle. By day 3, I'm convinced that he is incompetent. As more and more days went by, I was more and more convinced he was incompetent. The fiasco with the scuba diving trip and saying it was just a short 8-minute walk was nonsense. He actually Google searched where we were going to the National Cabo Pulmo Park, and I knew it was speaking kilometers. I knew it was 45 kilometers away and that there was a huge chunk of dirt. The fact that it was presented to you as a short section of dirt road was completely wrong, and it shows that Lee has no idea where he's going. He's working off a 20-year-old memory of the last time he was there. You and Glenn go for a dive. Lee and I go for a ride. More incompetent. We don't get 4 kilometers up a dirt road and I can't find Lee. Turn around to go look for him, and he's sitting in the middle of the road, stopped on a borrowed bike, not his own bike, borrowed bike, stopped, bullets of sweat dripping off his face, asking me where we're going. I explained that I have a Gaia map and that this is going to be a loop back to the highway. He doesn't want to do it. We agree to try another couple more miles. We start riding again. 10 minutes later, no Lee. Now, I'm in 3rd and 4th gear. I'm riding this easily. This is not a difficult road to ride. I turned around for the 2nd time and he stopped in the middle of the road, refusing to go any further. At this point, I realized he's no dirt rider. He might present himself as such, but he can't ride a simple sandy dirt road on this borrowed bike. This is disgusting to me. At this point, I realized that we're with the wrong person. Lee was never supposed to be our guide. I don't know what Joseph's skills are. I never met the man, but we were presented a dirt trip. So now I see there's no possibility of being led by this individual because he physically cannot ride. He doesn't have a GPS. He doesn't have any maps. He doesn't know where he's going. So I agree that we will turn around off of this road and ride the beach section that he wants to ride because it's more suitable for him. We get lost on that 3 more times, and 3 times I have to push him out of the sand that he's stuck in. He can't ride the beach either. So when it comes to leaving him behind towards the end of the trip, it was clear to me that he had not organized anything. There was no reserved hotels. There was no itinerary. He had no plan. It was wing it every day. He held on to the money and would not put fuel on our bikes when we needed it. And so as he says, we go ahead of him. Partly he's behind us because he's dragging along a girlfriend in a truck, and his ability to plan the trip ahead of time was dependent on her. He relied on Anga to make the reservations, to make the plans, to be doing the map work, because he clearly can't run a GPS. That was evident every time I showed it to him. So yes, we went ahead, but that was because it was clear to me we needed to fend for ourselves.
So when
Mr.
we
Reiner,
come up,
Go ahead.
so when we come up to that point, and it was clear that our guide was failing, the accommodations were failing, the itineraries failing. The only thing that didn't fail was the food, correct?
The food was acceptable. However, even at that, there was pressure put on to not order anything fancy or expensive. The whole trip was really geared to maximize the amount of money that's stuck in Lee's pocket after Joe gave him whatever he hired Lee to go do this trip. There's a whole bunch of evidence about what Glenn and I weren't provided that I presented to my credit card company that is a little bit irrelevant to what Brad didn't get from Lee. So some of my evidence isn't really relative here, other than you have 3 guests and all 3 guests complain and make legal challenges. Glenn and I were successful in our legal challenge using the American visa system. We presented our evidence. Joe was allowed to counter our evidence. The decision was made by the credit card to refund the portion of money that I claimed. And that speaks volumes to how bad the trip was.
And that
when
is
we were in Guadalupe the last night, Lee presents himself as if he was so organized. He didn't have a hotel prearranged, and we had agreed to not stay in Ensenada because there was a potential criminal element. And we had agreed, and this is in those WhatsApp transcripts, that we were going to ride through Ensenada and stay on the outskirts to avoid whatever criminal element there was in Ensenada. We didn't cross at Tijuana, despite what Lee says. We crossed at Tecate, which was seamless. He claims to know so much about the border. It was easier crossing at Tecate than it was when we crossed at Mexicali.
These guys are lucky
I
they're
agree.
alive.
He asks Brad why he went ahead and didn't
Stupidity
stop for
here.
fuel. And he said, I went to go look for him. Again, if you go through those WhatsApp conversations,
Amazing.
it was reprehensible, his behavior. He came back without finding his client. And his personal statement to me at the hotel was, Brad went off on his own. It's not my job to go find him. He was acting like a spoiled 15-year-old. The only reason Brad is back at the hotel is because he managed on his own devices, even after I specifically told Lee, hey, he's lost, he's out of fuel. You need to go get him. And when Lee says he was out of fuel himself, that's nonsense. Utter nonsense. We were at a truck selling fuel. He could have packed as much fuel as he needed. He could have ridden to Canada if he wanted to buy 45 gallons of fuel. He chose not to. So to say that he went off looking for Brad but was low on fuel himself, that was his decision. He left unprepared. His behavior as a guide is incompetent. You can see my level of agitation about this. I'm reliving it the more I hear what Brad is repeating this whole event.
To reiterate, when he pulled up to start with, did he ask you to come out and find me?
Absolutely. He was tired. He wanted to go to the hotel, and he asked me to go look for you. I was exasperated at that point, and I said point blank, he's your guest. You go find him. We didn't know at that point how much you had sent come help me, come help me, come help me messages. Those all came through hours later once your phone got back in cell service.
Yes, and I realized when I was out there that I was out of service, and that sent in a very big panic mode for me, being in the desert and in the heat. Is there anything you feel like you need to add to this story to substantiate anything?
It was very clear to me that from day 4 or 5, Brad sincerely felt that he was being cheated. Glenn and I felt like we were being cheated. The camaraderie Brad mentions is the 3 of us getting together as motorcycle riders, trying to figure out how to make the best of a trip that we've all prepaid in full. All 3 of us are foreigners, and to a certain extent needed some sort of coordination with our movements, which is what the guide was supposed to be doing. But the quality of what was provided was pitiful. So, go ahead.
Did you have the same understanding that I did, that there would be 2 guides, being Joseph and Mr. Garrett?
Absolutely. That's part of what I was able to successfully claim on my credit card chargeback. The arrangement was 2 guides and a truck, not some. I didn't even know who Lee was going to be. Not him, a girlfriend, and 2 old dogs, and a borrowed bike and a truck. That, in fact, in the very beginning, in the San Felipe section, Lee ended up an hour ahead of us. It sure would have been nice to have a rain jacket, other than the fact that my rain jacket was in the truck an hour ahead of me. So as much as he says Lee claims he was behind, making sure the slowest rider was okay, that's bullshit. There was just as many times that he was an hour in front of us, going 70 miles an hour, leaving the 3 of us behind. And worse, the real kicker to all of this is he sold Brad a street bike trip, and Joe sold Perry and Glenn a dirt bike trip. And none of the 3 of us got what was promised.
Well, and I recognize that some emotions are being kind of relived, but if you could please refrain from using any harsh language, I'd appreciate it. Do you have any further questions? Accepted. Mr. Reiner, do you have any further questions for Mr. Heinrich?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Garrett, do you have any questions for Mr. Heinrich? Oh, I think you might be muted, sir.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Heinrich, Mr. Reiner stated that the accommodations were bad. Do you recall in the conversation we had before you ever left Canada that you all stated that, you know, a good bed and you know, you like getting up kind of slow and that kind of thing. So that's all pretty easy for you. You recall making that statement?
I recall saying I didn't care what time we got going in the morning. I didn't know that you had promised Brad early starts.
I didn't promise him early starts, but that's not the question.
Okay, repeat your question then.
I said, did you recall us having a conversation where you and Glenn both said, you know, you don't need top of the line, you know, you're paying for a budget trip. You paid for a trip, an amount that was over a year old that we couldn't even fulfill, and that you had a long discussion with Joe about. And you said, well, we don't care about accommodations that much, as long as they're nice enough. And you recall having that conversation with Joe and
absolutely,
myself?
as long as they're nice enough. And my question to Joe was, would you take your wife to these places? So nice enough was open to interpretation.
Okay.
And
that's good.
Wait.
Answer the question. Joe, no, you just answer the question.
I think he's still answering the question, though, sir. Go ahead, Mr. Heinrich.
And the issue of what we paid really is irrelevant. It was never, ever presented as a budget trip. Joe sent an invitation to be the same as last year. And I quote, when Glenn and I initially declined at the 2025 price, it was Joe's offer that we would have the exact same trip as was presented in 2024 at the 2024 price. Nothing was ever mentioned about it being a budget or discounted trip. Those words only came out of Joe's mouth after about day 9 or 10, and we started to have disagreements about the quality of the trip. The 1 tank of fuel was never discussed.
Right. Do you have
There was
any
many
other
things-
questions? Oh, go ahead, Mr.
There's
Hannah.
many things that were never discussed.
There was, when you said the 1 tank of fuel, that was quickly laid aside because I pulled y'all to the side and I said, I want you to have, remember that conversation? I said, I want y'all to have what you think you paid for. So we're going to go with what you think was the trip, even though that was not conveyed to me at the time. And so, let's see, one other one.
My reply to that is, I have no complaint with the fuel. However, I'm supporting the fact that Brad has a legitimate complaint with the fuel.
Well, Brad was promised 1 tank of fuel a day. That was the initial deal. I elected to go ahead and pay for all of his fuel from the point at which I thought, well, if I'm going to be paying for theirs, I'm going to go ahead and cover Brad's. And so Brad's fuel was paid for. Only if he did not return a receipt was it not paid for. So did you ever get a receipt that I did not pay you in cash for? Did you ever submit a receipt to me for fuel or food that you bought that I did not give you cash the same day for?
Well, that interaction between you and I is irrelevant to the claim that Brad is
I'm just
making.
asking you a question. I'm asking you a question. Did
Okay,
I,
to answer your
because
question.
the statement was made that I quit paying for fuel and that you alluded to that I was not paying for the fuel. Did you ever give me a receipt that I did not pay for in cash the same day that you submitted it?
I personally got reimbursed for fuel.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Next question. Did you know that Glenn never got reimbursed for fuel or anything?
I don't know what you did. I don't know what you
Yeah.
did with Glenn.
You
The complaint
do,
I
but you
had,
refuse not to say it. Let's see. There was one other one here I had for you, and let me get it. How did we all agree we were going to correspond when we were separated and all that stuff? What method were we going to use to contact each other?
mostly WhatsApp.
Okay,
You-
yeah,
you-
that's pretty much it. That's good enough. Thank you, because that's where we made all of our daily dialogue and things like that. That wasn't for breakfast. Do you remember Brad not attending the breakfast meetings ever? I mean, say from Los Barriles on.
His lack of attendance due to both of you being entrenched in your positions, I offered to mediate.
I get that.
Did I just, you asked the question, so now you get the answer. I offered to mediate because both of you refused to talk to each other. You represented that
Don't say
Brad
both
wouldn't
of
talk
us.
to you.
Don't
You
say-
asked the
don't say
question. You
both
want to
of
hear
us.
the answer or not?
I want you
You
to
asked
make
the
sure you
question.
answer correctly, because both of us did not decline to talk to each other. I was perfectly willing and even attempted to talk to Brad when he was mad and wouldn't speak to me. So let's make sure you get that correct.
Well, I think that he's explaining his perception of those interactions, and certainly you'll be given a chance to testify here momentarily, Mr. Garrett, and you can flesh out anything that you think is incorrectly stated or maybe incorrectly perceived. Go ahead. Mr. Hendrick, if you'd like to go ahead, sir.
The end of the trip degenerated into very bad personal behavior, in my opinion. There is conversations in the WhatsApp messages between myself and Joseph. Joseph acknowledges certain things. There was problems. There was mistakes made. What's going on between Lee and Brad? Questions that were asked to me clearly acknowledge that there was a real clash of personalities on this trip. And whether or not those are appropriate or inappropriate, or who was at fault or not at fault, those are personality issues. The issue of what was the contract of the trip, what was delivered and what wasn't delivered, to me is the only thing that's significant. Whether we liked each other at the end or didn't like each other, called each other names, is all irrelevant. The issue is we got poor accommodations, we got poor guiding, We were misled at times by Lee's misinformation as to where we were going or what we were doing. The trip was a fiasco. And so you took 3 people on a trip and 3 people all wanted a refund. That's the fact.
Okay. Another fact is that you really don't know what happened when I got fuel and took off after Brad, do you? Do you know where I went?
I do.
Where'd I go?
You went down the road and never found Brad. You admitted that. We sat outside on a bench in the backyard of that hotel and discussed your responsibilities. And your exact words to me were, I can only do what I can do. And I said to you, you know, leaving him out there and not finding him really is feeling sorry for yourself about how badly this trip has turned out.
First of all, you're making a diatribe out of this. This is not, you don't know that I left him out there. Those are very strong words. I would have never have left him. I had to come back and refuel to go back. And that's when he appeared behind me. So you do not know, in fact, what happened after I left with the fuel bag that you had filled out, do you?
I know you never found him.
Yes or no?
And I know
Yes or no? Do you know what happened after I left you at the fuel station?
I think he's telling you what he did know. So I don't know that. I think he needs to be given a chance to answer the question. Go ahead, Mr. Reiner.
I know Brad came back by himself. I know you came back by yourself. I know that you never found him until you happened to coincidentally bump into each other at the fuel truck. What you did, I don't know. I will admit that. The fact remains that at least 2.5 hours went by that Brad was out there by himself. That I do know.
Right. Exactly. But do you know that it was also because of your lead that he got out there by himself in the first place? Y'all took off. You knew where the stop was, but y'all took off and left the person behind that was making the accommodations, that had made the reservations and all that stuff. And basically you kind of led him into the desert by himself, ill-equipped. Would you say that that's true? Y'all took off and left me behind, and you stopped and made gas, but he did not. Why is that? Is it because maybe y'all didn't listen to the plan very well and didn't stay with the guide?
You asked the question, so I'll answer. As far as I'm concerned, you're incompetent, and there was no need to follow you anymore because at this point,
diatribe about me. This is about why do you think that Brad would take off by himself into the desert?
Because he had more confidence in traveling with me and Glenn than he did with you. You had proven to be incompetent,
that worked out well, didn't it?
And really worse,
that worked out very well for him.
Proven to be a liar. So many things that you have said today and during the trip were out and out lies. We had lost all faith in you. So the value of your leadership was damn near zero. Apologies, Judge.
Any further questions for Mr. Heinrich?
I do. Why were we even heading to Catavenia in the first place and on into subsequently Ensenada, which, by the way, I did not book our night in Ensenada. It was in Valle de Guadalupe in a town called Sawzall. Do you remember when you, a day in advance, said, I'd really like to go and stay in this area of Sawzall? Do you remember when you said that? Because I do. I've got it in my log here.
Well, perhaps you should present that. I will answer your question. We took that route home because when we left Los Barriles, it was apparent to me that you and Anga had not calculated the travel time sufficiently for us to get back. And moreover, we were promised some flexibility in our trip, that you were both adamant that we returned to San Felipe, not because you had reserved anything. There were no hotels reserved. It was because it was convenient for the two of you to go back that way because that's where your trailer was. We went a different route, yes, at the insistence of Terry and Glenn and Brad's agreement. Because, again, it was clear that this trip was all about what suited you and not what the clients wanted. That also is reflected in the WhatsApp messages. And Judge, if you go and look somewhere prior to the Guadalupe day, there's a statement that says, I can't believe you insisted we couldn't go this way. And Lee replies and says, I never said we couldn't.
I said I didn't say that we would never go that way. I said that that's not a way that I choose to make my tours go. And it was, a final question for you, Mr. Hine. If you knew so much about the area, and if you knew and you had so many doubts about why did you need a guide in the first place? Because you seem to have just taken off on your own and wanted to run the trip for me, even though I was paid and experienced in the areas where we have gone on several occasions,
they had
by the way. We've gone and
GPS
stayed at all
and you
those
don't know
places,
squat.
except on the Catavenia
I
route.
can answer for him, and I
I've
haven't
stayed those
seen it.
places by myself and choose not to go back. But why did y'all decide that you needed a guide if you were just going to take over and start making the decisions for me?
Well, I addressed that. Initially, Joseph was supposed to be the guide, not you. I had no idea you were going to be the guide until a few weeks before the trip. And once I found out what your capacities were and your capabilities were, I would have never agreed to have you guide me to the doghouse. So once you find out that you have a guide that is not suitable by my judgment, in my opinion, I was making the best of it. So was Glenn, so was Brad. So to ask a question of why we had the lead, because you got us lost in the mountains, because you got stuck in the sand, because you refused to ride on a sand road, because you weren't providing a useful experience. And once you had our money, we
There you have it. I think I've got the rest of it. I think well, I'll tell you what. I think Zach has it. There's a ways to go, people. I think Zach has it. Let me look real quick here. Let me look real quick. All right. I don't have it handy. We'll do a part 2. We'll do a part 2 and watch the remainder of this. Part 2 will be shorter than this. It will. But there's still a ways to go. There's still a ways to go. We'll do a part 2 whenever I get it. Maybe in a little bit, maybe tomorrow, who knows. Who knows. But we've come this far. We got to see the judgment on this thing. All right? Let me get it together and I'll throw it up when I get it. All right? Talk to you later.